Do y'all remember when I told you that Gypsy Rose Blanchard was offering up her daughter to Nicholas Scotashine? Well, now I actually have the proof. I found it. This is the Greene County Sheriff's Office. This is the incident report. In the incident report, it says if they had a daughter, their daughter had to lose her stuff to Nicholas because he would be the master of secret. That is the actual police report. Okay, so this girl really is a danger to her own child because that's an actual legal document proving that Gypsy Rose Blanchard was offering up her daughter to a man, her father at that. I just want y'all to see that so you guys know that she is a danger. No matter what anybody wants to say about her unaliving her mom and saying that she's innocent or she suffered abuse or whatever you guys want to lie and say she did, is that appropriate? Because a lot of y'all are making excuses for a woman that is okay with that.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard's past is coming back to haunt her in a way that might change everything. With the resurfacing of official police documents, the possibility of her losing custody of her daughter is becoming more real than ever. And let's be clear, this isn't some wild internet theory. These are official records, legal documents that were filed years ago, detailing some truly unsettling things about her past. Yet somehow, Gypsy has been out here, living freely, building a new life, and now even raising a child. But once you really take in what's in these reports, the question becomes unavoidable: how did this even happen? How is she allowed to be a caregiver to an innocent baby when these disturbing things have been documented? One of the most shocking aspects of this situation is the police report from the Greene County Sheriff's Office. This document isn't new. It's been out there for a while, yet it's been largely ignored, which is honestly shocking considering what it reveals. This report comes from the time Gypsy and Nick Godijon were arrested for the murder of Dee Blanchard. Among the many disturbing details in their texts, messages, and videos, one particular video stands out. In this footage, Gypsy, under her alter ego Demonia, was seen role-playing and making deeply unsettling statements about her future daughter. According to the report, Gypsy, as Demonia, expressed her love for Nick and how they would build a family together, but then it took a horrific turn. She allegedly stated that their daughter would have to lose her innocence to Nick at the age of 13 because, in her words, he would be the master of the household.
Gypsy introduces herself as Demona. She talked about being in love with him, Nicholas, and how she wanted them to live together away from other people. She talked about having children with Nicholas. She said they would have to teach and educate their children what not to say in public to keep him being a vampire a secret. If they had a girl, then their daughter had to with Nicholas because he would be the master of the household. She said when she turned 13, the hypothetical daughter, she would explain this to her daughter and why she had to give her to Nicholas. She talked about how she was Nicholas's SLA blank E and he could have her anytime he wanted.
This isn't speculation. This isn't a rumor. This is documented in legal filings. If you've seen the documentary Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose, you probably remember Gypsy telling a very different version of events. In her retelling, she painted herself as a manipulated victim, making it seem like Nick was the one who came up with these horrifying ideas, and that she was simply going along with them under his control.
We got into a conversation. Nick was telling me how he would protect me from anyone. And I asked him, I said, anyone? And he said, yes. And I said, even my mother? And he said, yes. He starts talking about fantasies of murder and rape and crime. And these are all things that I didn't know existed in him at first. And that is when he told me that his alternate personality's name is Victor, that he's a 500-year-old vampire. He starts talking to me about how Victor loves to kill. and would kill my mother for me.
That the police report contradicts that narrative entirely. It states that Gypsy wasn't just a passive participant, she was an active one. She wasn't objecting, hesitating, or pushing back. She was engaged in the conversation, playing along enthusiastically, even elaborating on the twisted dynamics she envisioned. And before anyone tries to excuse it by saying she didn't know what she was saying or that she was confused, let's be clear, Gypsy was a full-grown adult in her 20s when she made these statements. This wasn't the confusion of a child or some naive fantasy. These were the words of a woman who was old enough to understand exactly what she was talking about. And the most chilling part, she wasn't being coerced or forced. She was willingly fantasizing about it, openly putting these thoughts into words. Even more disturbing, this wasn't a one-time thing. The police report details multiple instances where Gypsy continued to express these kinds of ideas, reinforcing the notion that this wasn't just some fleeting, heat-of-the-moment comment. This was something she actively engaged in, something that wasn't forced upon her by Nick, but rather a shared, mutual fantasy.
So that is some pretty disturbing roleplay, right? Then you add in the whole book. So the book gets very spicy and like weird spicy, and she dedicates the book to her daughter. She even said on an interview, like within the last couple days, that this book was so her daughter can know how she was brought up and how things came to be with the whole. It's very disturbing this was said in the first place and how it's kind of revived in the book. I don't know what else to say.
That's a key detail that shatters any attempt to frame her as simply a victim who was going along with what her boyfriend wanted. She wasn't just complying, she was contributing. Instead, she continued to speak about it with an eerie level of comfort, as though she still didn't see the issue with what she had once envisioned. And that leads to the million-dollar question: is the Gypsy we see today really any different from the Gypsy who was saying these things years ago? Because from what we've seen, the answer is looking like a big no. And then there's how she acted while pregnant. It's completely normal for expecting mothers to get excited, to share ultrasound pictures, to daydream about their child's future. But what Gypsy did, it wasn't normal. And it wasn't just a harmless, quirky thing. It was deeply disturbing. She posted an AI-generated image of what her baby would look like in the future. But she didn't just leave it as a cute little prediction. She made enhancements to the image, sexualizing the physical features of a minor child. And then she publicly shared it, as if it were completely normal.
Okay, so this girl really is a danger to her own child, because that's an actual legal document proving that Gypsy Rose Blanchard was offering up her daughter to a man, her father at that. I just want y'all to see that, so you guys know that she is a danger. No matter what anybody wants to say about her unaliving her mom and saying that she's innocent or she suffered abuse or whatever you guys want to lie and say she did, is that appropriate? Because a lot of y'all are making excuses for a woman that is okay with that. Because don't forget that picture she posted in Let's Spin a Block. Now, nobody should look at this like this is harmless when this is clearly a minor. When you looked this little girl up, when you put her in the Google search engine, it shows someone from 5 to 7. And I want you to pay attention. So when y'all try to say something about me, just remember that report that I just showed you. That is who that chick is.
That alone would have been disturbing enough. But what makes it worse is that she didn't seem to have any awareness of how inappropriate it was. She wasn't joking. She wasn't making some ironic or satirical post. She genuinely posted it with no apparent concern, as if she saw nothing wrong with it. This wasn't just a careless mistake. It wasn't a slip-up she immediately regretted. This was a pattern. Time and time again, Gypsy has shown the same lack of awareness, the same disturbing tendencies that make you question, does she actually understand what it means to be a mother? Does she even grasp the weight of this responsibility? Because even after all the outrage, all the valid criticism, Her behavior didn't change. She didn't step back to reflect or show remorse. Instead, she carried on like nothing happened, still engaging with fans, still soaking up attention, still acting as if everything was just fine. No sincere apology, no acknowledgement of how wrong her actions were, just complete indifference to the severity of it all.
Gypsy posted this to her TikTok stories. This is a screenshot of where Gypsy has reported Nina's video to TikTok. Then she writes, "Disgusting. Perverted minds need banned off the internet. Any content that she makes about my child, Team Gypsy will report. Talk about my child in a perverse way again, and I will personally write to TikTok and report you."
And sure, some of her fans rushed to defend her, saying she didn't mean it that way, that people were just reading too much into it. But let's be honest, how does someone accidentally sexualize an AI-generated image of their own unborn child? That's not something you just do on a whim. That's not an innocent oversight. That speaks to a mindset, one that raises serious questions about her judgment, her morality, and ultimately, her fitness as a parent. Does this sound like someone who has truly changed? Someone who deserves the responsibility of raising a child? Or does it sound like someone who is still making the same unsettling choices and refusing to take accountability for them? And now that her baby is actually here, her actions aren't exactly screaming, "devoted mother." Her child is reportedly sick, dealing with a genetic disorder that affects breathing, and yet, what is Gypsy doing? She's parading her newborn on live streams, using her baby for clout and reality TV attention. She's still going on dates, still attending concerts, still living life like a single woman instead of a mother with a medically fragile child. And this isn't an occasional thing, it's a pattern. And let's be clear, it's not just about her leaving the baby behind. It's about who she's leaving the baby with. There have already been multiple reports suggesting that the people she entrusts with child care may not be the best choices, especially for an infant with serious health concerns. Given everything she endured growing up, years of manipulation, abuse, and control, you would think she'd be extra cautious about who she allows around her child. But instead of showing the natural instinct to protect, she's displaying a shocking level of detachment. Look, every mother deserves a break. That's not the issue. The issue is the consistent pattern of irresponsibility. The issue is the lack of maternal instinct. The issue is that when faced with a choice between doing what's right for her child and doing what benefits her, Gypsy almost always chooses herself. So the real question is, how does she still have custody? Why is this not a serious legal concern? And let's not forget about Ken, her husband. What's his role in all of this? Has he actually read the police reports? Has he seen the disturbing evidence? Or is he just turning a blind eye, pretending it's all in the past? Because if he does know all of this and still chooses to be with her, that's an entirely different kind of problem. What kind of man willingly gets involved with someone who orchestrated the murder of her own mother? What kind of person sees all these red flags and still says, "Yeah, I want to build a family with her"? From the very moment Ken slid into Gypsy's DMs, his judgment was already questionable. Most people wouldn't even consider dating someone with a past like hers, let alone marrying them and bringing a child into the mix. So what's his angle? Is he genuinely in love, blindly believing she's changed? Or is this about something else? Some think he's drawn to the fame, that he enjoys the attention that comes with being Gypsy Rose Blanchard's husband. Others believe he's just too naive to see the truth. Either way, his ability to make rational, protective decisions for their child is seriously in question. Because this isn't just about Gypsy's past, it's about her present behavior. The police reports are horrifying, yes, but what she's doing now is just as concerning. And Ken? He seems perfectly fine standing by her side, ignoring all the warning signs. So what happens when things inevitably go wrong? Will he keep making excuses for her? Will he continue to look the other way? Or is he just as reckless as she is? At the end of the day, this isn't a normal situation. This isn't a normal family. And yet, somehow, Gypsy is being given the chance to raise a child despite everything we know. And that's terrifying, because the truth is, Gypsy hasn't actually changed. She refused mental health treatment while in prison. She still prioritizes herself over the well-being of her child. And now, an innocent baby is completely dependent on her. So what do you think? Should Gypsy even have custody of her child? Should she even be free, knowing what's in those police reports? Let's discuss it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe because this conversation isn't over.